let's also talk about this other issue about reinstatement of. We must talk about Justice Salami.
Okay. Yes.
Now we're talking about the judiciary. Why has it been so difficult for something to be done in that regard? The question is not as if why has it not been reinstated. The question is why has all this brouhaha not been settled till this moment? If we say the judiciary has a self-cleansing powers.
Well, that in fact is a corroboration of my earlier position. I mean, that we shouldn't just allow the judiciary to do what it likes, because you see, Nigeria does not belong to the judiciary. Nigeria does not belong to lawyers, and Nigeria does not belong to politicians. And I think this is about getting the citizens to reclaim Nigeria. Now, because you see, we are talking about Justice Salami. As I was coming here this morning, I was looking at it. I said, look, well, of course we have to amend the constitution. Look at section 292 of the constitution that gives power to the president to remove a judge, upon address of the National Assembly, 2/3 of them. But the truth now is that Justice Salami was not removed. He was said to have been suspended, but it's not functioning. So somebody has abused that provision. Somebody has circumvented that provision. So now you can amend that. But how long are we going to allow politicians with their own interest to stultify our judicial growth and our democratic aspiration? So this is the point I'm making, that we can't allow the judiciary to just do self-cleansing. And then the attitude of the politicians. The politicians have this ownership sense, this false ownership sense. They believe that Nigeria is theirs. It's like Nigeria is a fiefdom, so we can do what we like. So this country, if we like, Salami has to be brought back by NJC, which is an organ of this constitution, but we ignore it. Well, we can even engineer some people to go to court and file some frivolous cases. Even if they withdraw the cases, we will claim that the cases are in court. But meanwhile, these people knew that there was a case in court before he was suspended. I mean, I can tell you, when I look at Justice Salami's case, I feel a little bit politically impotent. I feel ashamed that I'm a citizen of this country, and we cannot do anything. We cannot rally our people to stop this kind of desecration of our constitutional order. It is very embarrassing.
Do you think the bar is doing enough in all of this that we're discussing today?
Well, you know my view about the bar. I wrote an article recently, Kabbalization of the NBA. You see, the NBA itself has become part of the problem. I say this very seriously. When you have an organization that itself is not internally democratic, there is no way that organization can guarantee or contribute to democracy or democratic growth. I mean, I don't want to go into that because this is not the forum. But the point is that when we had serious leadership of the NBA, like under late Akabashonu, we saw what the NBA did. We saw the way an NBA that understands is raising the tar can contribute to development in Nigeria. I mean, but now the NBA, many people who want to use NBA, they use it for their own personal selfish aggrandizement. They just think that being a lawyer is just about amassing wealth. You know, Sapara Williams, the first Nigerian lawyer, made it very clear. He said a lawyer exists for the direction of his people and the advancement of noble objectives. But people now think that being a lawyer is just an access to fame, access to wealth, godly wealth in most cases. And so when we become leadership of the NBA, leaders of the NBA, we want to use it to move around, go and visit governors, visit president, pay all sorts of very funny, what do they call it now? They call courtesy visits? I mean, you saw when I was chairman of that, I deliberately, all the states I visited, I would not visit any governor. That is not my work. But Nigeria, if they appoint somebody as the chairman of mosquito killers, now, the first thing he does is to go and visit the next governor. What kind of country is this?
The question of the bar comes in because legal practitioners talk about the fact that even at the instance of filing cases, they are being asked to pay all sorts of monies, extortion. Before an IPO will appear for your case, he can tell you, well, I'm sorry, if you don't fund me, I'm not going to come, and then help you if he's transferred out of your location. You have to ferry him for where he is to come back. We'll have the bar. Do lawyers complain about this to the authorities?
That is why I said, look, the NBA ordinarily ought to be critical, ought to be able to do the right thing. But if the NBA itself is not getting its act together, it's a problem. I mean, it's not only that is even too obvious now, but there are some other issues that even destroy justice system that may not be as obvious as that. Look at even the way judges sit. A judge is supposed to sit at 9 a.m. The judge does not come out until 2 p.m.
Did he apologize or tell you
no
why?
Apologies, and then the NBA does not even make a whimper about that. You expect the NBA leadership to go around, have a committee to visit the court, to know who is doing what, because you see, any power or privilege that is unchecked becomes tyrannical. If you have a judge who knows that I can do what I like, I can sit when I like, I talk to lawyers the way I like, then of course, why?
You're the second lawyer talking about this. Once we had a lawyer here, he said, well, sometimes they leave as far as maybe Abuja, you're based in Lagos, and you get there, that's when you know that the case will not hold, and no one tells you anything, no one gives you any kind of reason. This kind of attitude, can't it be checked? Because this is also corruption. It's
corruption, that's what I'm saying. It's in fact perhaps very devastating corruption, because it encourages culture of impunity, and if you know you can get away with that, then of course, why can't you collect money from a litigant? So this is why, you travel all the way from Lagos to Abuja, maybe you took a flight with all the risks in Nigeria today, or elsewhere anyway, and then you go to court, and then the judge does not even come, then you are not told immediately you arrived the court premises. Around 1 p.m. or about maybe sometimes they're nice to you 11, then a clerk saunters in casually and then says, "Hey, good morning, counsel. The judge will not be coming because he attended the conference yesterday." This has happened to me before. What kind of system is that? In other societies, that kind of judge would have to be dealt with one way or the other.
Can you take us through the process? I'm very, very bothered about the fact that you've said that justice is not cheap. And it doesn't come cheap in this country.
Yes.
Why is that so? Tell us, assuming I were someone who's aggrieved and I want to take my case to the court, how does it work?
Well, of course, how it works is, number one, you want to first of all start, if you're not a lawyer yourself, to consult with a legal practitioner. And of course, consultation fee must be paid in some chambers. And even if you're not paying consultation fee, the lawyer is likely to ask for a fee unless it's a lawyer who believes in pro bono services and who thinks that you are indigent, you are not able to afford his or her fees. Now, the man is going to also ask you to pay filing fees. And then when you pay filing fees, of course, it means that, from what my brother has also alluded to, even filing the case, apart from filing fees, there are other things that people, demand from one place to the other, that you have to give somebody going to serve, even though the bailiff or the sheriff, as the case may be, is going to be paid by the state, but they will still tell you to mobilize them. And all of these things are going on.
And if you don't?
And if you don't, of course, the man keeps your job in the cooler. And when the job is not served, when the process is not served, of course, no adjudication can take place, because service is fundamental to adjudication. Now, and all of this goes on. The NBA cannot claim not to be aware of this. And then the EFCC may probably have to also step in here, so that, you see, we can just sanitize. Because if people are bribing in the hallowed temple of justice, as we say, then of course, where will bribery not take place? So this is why we say that justice is not cheap, and it's so sad, because if you are trying to build liberal democracy, and I use my words advisedly, we're trying to build liberal democracy, then you must guarantee easy access to justice, because without that, then you don't have democracy.
I also would say, yesterday we had spoken with Mr. Isesage, and one of the things that came up is the system of checks. Professor Isesage, and one of the things that had come up was the system of checks and balances, and that's what supposed to be able to operate in a democracy. And he had said that one of the roles of the judiciary is to check both the legislature and the executive. But he didn't quite agree that all those other arms could actually check the judiciary.
He didn't agree?
Well, not quite.
Okay, well, that I can understand why. Now, our system, our society is still largely feudalistic. So once somebody is said to be the guy in charge, then the person is seen as an emperor. So he commands all the resources, he can frustrate you. So in Nigeria, the way we rate these people, they're not really equal. That is the truth of the matter. The executive is the highest, because, if you look at how much money goes to the executive, then your guess is as good as mine. You understand what I'm saying? And so the executive also controls the quasi powers of the state, the military, the police, SSS. If I don't like your face, even though I know every other person is stealing, I may ask the SSS or ICPC or police to go and investigate you. You understand what I'm saying? So now that, in a way, gives this fear, creates this fear in the heart of the other arms, and then they want to also, toe the line of the executive, and that is not good enough. So you must clinically maintain as much as possible this separation of powers. You must allow some independence. That's how people are talking. Some people have said one of the ways you can do that is to ask the judiciary to be self-accounting. I don't really agree with that. Because for me, the business of a judge is not to determine how money is spent or how much money comes. But let the constitution define this. I think that is what is important, because when you get judges to be awarding contracts, to be furnishing offices, of course they too get easily corrupted, because we are dealing with a very serious
distract them from the core function.
From the core function. So I don't agree with that. So,
okay.
So you don't think that the judiciary is isolated enough as it is?
No. The point I'm making is that we need to take our problem holistically. We don't need to isolate one segment of the society and begin to puncture solutions or blames, as the case may be. Because if you do that, at the end of the day, by the time you finish treating the head, you discover that the leg is already rotten. And if the leg is rotten, the head cannot go anywhere. So, we need to take a holistic, we have problem in Nigeria. And I hope the president understands the gravity, the enormity of the problem that corruption has wrought in this country. Because corruption has created so many, people are dying needlessly because of corruption. Look at the road, Lagos to Ibadan expressway. Look at all other roads in Nigeria. Look at our hospitals. People are dying now because they can't even afford drugs. People are dying because they are taking concussions that are now giving them all sorts of kidney problems, and all of this can be traced to the corrupt act of one fellow somewhere. So that is why I think that we need to, it's an emergency case.
All right, give us your thoughts on this Lagos Parks and Garden law before you go.
Lagos Park and Gardens law. Well, I tell you, my brother, I think the intention may be good, but one thing we must know, as people say regularly, is that the road to hell is often paved with good intentions. I tell you, we are getting our priorities wrong. Somebody said, in time past, Lagos was beautiful, Lagos was good. The question you ask yourself, was that a product of law? Was Lagos clean because there was a law in place that you must beautify Lagos, that you must plant trees? You must look at when the social conditions of a people have degenerated, when the people have been plummeted by the effects of corruption, when young graduates, brilliant graduates, have no jobs to do, and then their parents are seeing these adults living with them, even at age 30, 40, and then you are telling the parents to be thinking of buying flour, even if the man is the one that manufactures flour, he won't even remember to go and plant the flour. So I'm not saying it is not good to beautify. All of us, I think all of us are well dressed here by the grace of God. We want to look nice. We want to live in clean environment. People travel outside. We see how these places are. But we need to do first things first. If you begin to jail people because they can't plant flour, do you know? Look, my brother and sister, I don't know whether you go to all those places like Ajigule or Jota, some other places. I've seen people, a family of about 5 or 6 people in one room. I was telling my wife a few days ago, look, you feel like crying. You see, and you say to yourself, God is so good to Nigeria. Because our Nigeria has not been ragged and destroyed by infectious diseases, only God can explain. And then you are talking about, in that kind of situation, that you are saying people should go and be planting flower, and if they don't plant flower, you are going to jail them. Is that how to do democracy now? Please, I'm begging them, I'm begging Lagos State government people, they should please create jobs. They should please do first things first. After that, when you have not done that, when people have jobs, when they have money, if people don't plant flowers, if people don't paint houses, you can then, put all of them in jail.